Now that we have Ruby installed, we're ready to learn about RubyGems. RubyGems helps us to manage the different Ruby libraries that we'll be needing. RubyGems is the name of the package manager. A single Ruby gem, or just gem for short, is simply Ruby code that's been packaged up for easy distribution using RubyGems. Rails is going to make extensive use of RubyGems, so you'll become very familiar with them. And as you'll see, Rails is itself a Ruby gem. Now when we installed Ruby using the Ruby installer, it should have included RubyGems for us automatically. If for any reason that stops being true in the future, the way you get RubyGems is by going to rubygems.org. And from right there, you can see the link for installing RubyGems and it'll take you to the download instructions. This is a good resource for RubyGems because you can find all the RubyGems, all the code libraries that have been created that can be shared with RubyGems, and they also host user guides, frequently asked questions, and things you might want to know about RubyGems. So you may want to spend some time browsing through this website once we get everything up and running. But for now, let's go ahead and just close this window, and let's go to our command prompt. And from here, we can type gem space -v. This will make sure that we have RubyGems installed and tell us what version we have. So at the moment I have 137. That's what was installed for me by the Ruby installer. Again, if you don't get that, you'll want to go to that RubyGems website and download and install it yourself. Now to use the RubyGem package manager, we type the gem command followed by whatever we want to do. So gem space list will give us a list of the gems that we currently have installed. Now don't worry about what each of these are. We're going to want to install Rails 3.0 as a gem, but first let's update our copy of RubyGems itself to make sure that we have the latest version, because I want you to know how to keep your RubyGems up to date. Gem update and then space -- system. If we type that, it'll go out to the internet, check what version we have, and make sure that it's the latest version of RubyGems. For me, it was. It says nothing to update. But for you, it might have needed to make a slight update. Definitely don't worry if you don't have the same version that I do. You just want to make sure you have the most recent one. We also can type gem space -- help, and we can get some help information that'll tell us information about how to use RubyGems. Again, you can also find this information on that RubyGems website. Now that we've located RubyGems and made sure it's the right version, it's going to be really easy for us to install not just Rails, but also other Ruby libraries that we can use while developing in Rails. Next, let's see how we can install Rails as a gem.